Once upon a time, deep within the emerald heart of the Amazon, where the air smells like wet earth and fresh blossoms, colors bloomed in the most unexpected places. Birds wore feathers in brilliant reds, blues, and golds. Lizards shimmered with glistening green and yellow scales, and flowers seemed to have every hue of the rainbow. It was a paradise where every leaf, every petal, and every creature sparkled with nature's paintbrush. But there was a secret, a hidden hand behind the magic that made everything so vibrant. You see, every night, when the jungle grew quiet and the moonlight bathed the rainforest in silver, an invisible painter visited. With a delicate touch, this painter brushed color across the wings of butterflies, the scales of frogs, and the fur of jaguars. No one ever saw the painter, but they all knew the artist's work. It was a mystery whispered through the leaves, a quiet rumor carried by the wind. The creatures of the rainforest were all in awe of this unseen force, marveling at the beauty it left behind. And so, the world of the Amazon was alive with color, a masterpiece crafted by an invisible hand that could paint beauty into everything it touched. One early morning, as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the thick canopy, a baby bird hatched from its egg. It wasn't like the other birds, whose feathers shimmered with every shade of the rainbow. No, this little one was different. Its feathers were as pale as a cloud, a soft, empty white with no hint of color. It looked at its wings, confused and heartbroken. It couldn't understand why it wasn't like the others. Why was it born with no colors? No blue like the sky, no green like the leaves, no gold like the sun-drenched flowers. The little bird felt out of place in the vibrant jungle. It looked at the world around it, where every other creature was covered in rich, beautiful hues. The birds sang their melodies in full color. The frogs hopped through the bushes with glistening green skin, and the flowers bloomed with bursts of color. But the little bird had nothing but pale, soft feathers that couldn't match the magic of the world. So, with a heart full of hope and determination, the bird decided it would set off on a journey to find the invisible painter, to beg for a color of its own. It would find the artist who brought the rainforest to life, and ask for a touch of beauty. The little bird believed that somewhere in the jungle, there was a brush waiting to paint it into the masterpiece it was meant to be. With a sense of urgency and a flutter in its chest, the little bird set off through the dense jungle, its pale feathers a stark contrast to the vibrant life around it. The jungle was alive with sounds, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of insects, and the distant calls of other creatures. But the bird's focus remained sharp. It wasn't searching for food or shelter. No, it was searching for something far more important. A painter, a magical force that could give it the colors it lacked. The bird flew through the towering trees, its tiny wings flapping in determination. It hadn't been flying for long when it came across the jaguar, resting lazily in the sun. The jaguar's fur was a work of art, black spots like distant stars scattered across a golden canvas. The bird paused, staring at the jaguar in awe. "Excuse me," the bird chirped shyly. "How did you get your beautiful spots?" The jaguar blinked lazily, its eyes glinting with a knowing look. "Ah, little one, I was touched by the invisible painter. It painted me with stars on my fur, a mark of the night sky. You too are waiting for the painter's touch, aren't you?" The bird nodded, its heart swelling with hope. "Yes, I need color. I need to find the painter." The jaguar stretched its long limbs and yawned. "Follow your heart. The painter is near, but remember, sometimes the artist leaves more than just color behind. Sometimes it leaves lessons too." With those words, the jaguar closed its eyes again, and the bird continued its journey, more determined than ever. As the little bird ventured deeper into the jungle, it soon came across a small frog sitting on a mossy rock by the riverbank. The frog's eyes gleamed like jewels, reflecting the lush green of the rainforest. It had vibrant, iridescent skin that shimmered with hues of emerald and turquoise, as though the colors of the entire jungle had been captured within its tiny form. The bird was in awe. "Excuse me," the bird chirped again. "How did you get your beautiful colors?" The frog blinked slowly, taking a moment before answering. "Ah, my colors. I was touched by the invisible painter, just as you seek to be. I remember feeling just like you once, faded and unnoticed in a world of brilliant hues. But the painter doesn't just add color to what is seen. The painter touches your heart, your soul, and your mind." The bird tilted its head, curious. "So, the painter didn't just paint your skin?" "No," the frog croaked with a gentle smile. "The painter gave me the ability to see beauty in everything. I learned to see the world through different eyes. Eyes that could find magic in the smallest things. The painter doesn't just give you what you want. It helps you see what you already have, and the magic within it." The little bird's wings fluttered as the frog's words sank in. It had never thought of things that way before. Perhaps the painter's magic wasn't just about filling the empty spaces with color. It was about opening eyes to the beauty already there. With newfound insight, the bird thanked the frog and continued its journey, carrying the frog's wisdom with it. The path ahead grew quieter as the bird continued through the dense underbrush, reflecting on the frog's words. Perhaps the painter's touch wasn't just about giving something that was missing, but about helping it see the beauty within itself. Still, the bird's heart ached for color, something to fill its empty feathers. It wasn't long before the bird came upon a chameleon, perched on a tree branch, its scales shifting between shades of green and brown as it blended seamlessly with its surroundings. The chameleon's transformation was mesmerizing. Each shift in color seemed to tell a new story, a new secret the jungle was hiding. "Excuse me," the little bird called out. "How do you change your colors like that?" The chameleon looked down at the bird with a calm smile, his eyes twinkling with ancient knowledge. "Ah, little one, you are looking for something that already lives inside of you. The painter's magic is not only about what you receive, it's also about what you can give to yourself. You see, color isn't just something that is applied. It's something that is chosen, something that can change as you grow." The bird blinked, processing the chameleon's words. "So, you mean, I can change my colors too?" "Exactly," the chameleon replied, his tail curling gracefully around the branch. "But change comes from within. The painter didn't just choose your colors, it gave you the power to decide who you want to be, how you want to express yourself. You must first understand that true transformation begins when you accept the colors already within you." The bird took a deep breath, understanding dawning on it. Maybe it didn't need to search so hard for the painter. Maybe it already had the power to change its own world. With the chameleon's words echoing in its mind, the little bird continued, its heart a little lighter, its wings a little stronger. The bird's journey took it deeper into the jungle, where the trees grew closer together, their branches intertwining like ancient hands reaching out to one another. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, and the sounds of the jungle seemed to hum with life. The bird flew on, feeling both lighter and more determined with each passing moment. As it neared a small clearing, the bird heard a soft rustling in the bushes. Cautiously, it flitted closer and found a beautiful butterfly perched on a delicate flower. Its wings shimmered with soft blues, purples, and golds, as if they were painted by the sunset itself. "Excuse me," the bird asked, its voice filled with wonder. "How do your wings glow with such beauty?" The butterfly fluttered its wings gently, sending a shower of sparkling dust into the air. "Ah, my wings! I was touched by the invisible painter, just like you. But the painter doesn't just paint us in one moment. Paints us over and over through every experience, every moment of growth. The magic of the painter is not only in what you see, but in what you feel." The bird tilted its head, intrigued. "What do you mean?" The butterfly smiled softly, its wings catching the light. "I mean, I didn't always have wings like these. They were dull, simple. But with time, with each journey, each adventure, my wings began to shimmer. The painter wasn't just a creator. It was a reminder to keep dancing through life, to keep evolving. The magic is in the movement, the constant change. When you embrace who you are and where you're going, the colors will come. The bird's heart fluttered with a new sense of excitement. It understood now. The painter's magic wasn't just a one-time gift, but a process, a transformation that happened over time. It was in the living, the growing, the learning. With a final glance at the butterfly, the bird continued, its path now feeling lighter, its wings less burdened by doubt. As the day wore on, the bird's journey led it to a quiet river, where the water flowed smoothly, reflecting the green of the trees and the blue of the sky. The air was thick with humidity, and the soft hum of the jungle seemed to slow down, as though holding its breath. The bird landed on a large rock near the water's edge, watching the current gently sweep away fallen leaves and twigs. It was here, by the river, that the bird heard a soft voice. "Looking for answers, little one?" The bird turned to see an old tortoise slowly making its way to the riverbank. The tortoise's shell was worn with age, but it shimmered with a faint green glow, like the reflection of the jungle's colors captured within it. "I am looking for the painter," the bird confessed, its voice small. "I need to find the one who can give me color. I've learned so much, but I still feel incomplete." The tortoise nodded slowly, its ancient eyes reflecting the depth of the river. "The painter is not something you can find in one place. The magic of the painter is in the flow of life. It's like the river. You see how the water flows continuously, not holding on to a single moment, but always moving forward. That's how the painter's magic works." The bird listened intently, unsure of where the tortoise was going with this. "The painter doesn't just give you color, little one. It shows you that you are already a part of something bigger, something that flows, changes, and adapts. You must learn to see the beauty in the journey, not just the destination." The bird sat in silence, pondering the tortoise's words. Maybe the search for color wasn't just about finding the right brushstrokes. Maybe it was about embracing the flow of life itself. As the tortoise slowly retreated into the water, the bird felt a shift within itself. It was no longer so focused on finding a color. It was learning to appreciate the journey, the path that led it forward. With the tortoise's wisdom still lingering in its heart, the little bird continued its journey, feeling a little more grounded in its search. The jungle was quiet now, the sun beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The bird's wings fluttered as it navigated through the thick foliage, feeling a growing sense of purpose. It had learned so much from the creatures it had met, the jaguar, the frog, the chameleon, and the butterfly. But still, the painter remained elusive. As it flew further, the bird came across an ancient tree, its massive roots weaving through the earth like veins. The tree towered above, its leaves a deep green, thick with the weight of countless seasons. The bird landed softly on one of its sturdy branches, resting for a moment as the evening breeze gently swayed the leaves around it. Suddenly, the wind whispered in the bird's ears, carrying a soft, melodic murmur. It wasn't a voice it could understand, but the sound felt familiar, like a memory it couldn't quite place. The bird looked around, its heart racing. The air was thick with a sense of magic. Something ancient and timeless was here, hidden among the tree's roots. With a flutter of excitement, the bird remembered the words of the tortoise. "The magic is in the flow of life." Perhaps this was it. The painter wasn't a person, but a force woven into the very fabric of the jungle. Maybe it was the wind, the trees, the rivers, all of it working together to create the world of color the bird longed for. As the wind picked up, the bird closed its eyes and breathed deeply, feeling the life of the jungle around it. There was something here, something that could teach it how to see, how to feel the magic in everything. The journey was never about finding a single artist, but about understanding that the artist was the jungle itself. The bird stretched its wings, ready to embrace whatever came next. The next day, The bird awoke with a new sense of clarity. The jungle around it buzzed with energy, and for the first time, it felt a deep connection to the world it had always known but never truly understood. It was as though every leaf, every sound, every color had a purpose, a hidden story waiting to be revealed. The bird felt something shifting inside, like a door opening to a world it hadn't known it could enter. It continued its flight, now more confident, knowing that the journey was not about rushing to an answer, but about embracing each moment along the way. As the sun filtered through the canopy, casting playful shadows on the ground below, the bird came across a chattering group of monkeys. They were swinging from the trees, their laughter ringing through the air as they tossed fruit to one another. One of the monkeys, with bright orange fur and a mischievous grin, noticed the bird and stopped mid-swing. "You seem lost, little one," the monkey said, tilting its head. The bird paused. "I've been searching for the invisible painter, the one who gives the jungle its colors." The monkey scratched its chin thoughtfully. "Ah, I've heard of the painter, but let me tell you something even more interesting. You see, every color, every pattern we have, is a part of the bigger picture. We don't just wear our colors for ourselves. We wear them for others to see and understand us. Our markings tell stories, show who we are." The bird felt a ripple of understanding. "But what about me? I don't have any colors. How will anyone see who I am?" The monkey grinned wider. "You are still writing your story, little bird. Colors don't define you. It's your actions, your choices, your journey that do. You'll find your colors when the time is right, and when you embrace who you are, just as you are now." With that, the monkey swung away, leaving the bird to ponder the words. It was true. The bird had always thought that color was something it needed to find outside of itself, but perhaps it was something that would come when it embraced its own uniqueness, when it embraced its story. As the days passed, the bird's journey continued with a growing sense of calm. It had come to understand that the quest for color was not simply a search for beauty, but a search for self-understanding. The bird had learned from the jaguar, the frog, the chameleon, the butterfly, and the wise tortoise. Each lesson had been a step closer to discovering not just the painter's magic, but its own. One evening, as the bird flew across a golden meadow, a flash of delicate motion caught its eye. It landed gracefully on a nearby branch to investigate, and saw a butterfly dancing joyfully in the fading light of the day. The butterfly's wings shimmered like stained glass, reflecting every color of the setting sun. But it was not simply the beauty of the butterfly that caught the bird's attention. It was its movement. The butterfly's dance was delicate, ethereal, as though it was performing a story without words, fluttering between flowers with effortless grace. Each movement seemed to paint the air itself, creating a fleeting masterpiece in the breeze. The bird perched quietly, watching in awe. It hadn't realized until now that beauty wasn't static. The butterfly wasn't just beautiful because of its colors. It was beautiful because of how it moved, how it embraced each moment with joy and freedom. It was alive in a way that was as fluid and vibrant as the painter's touch. "Excuse me," the bird said softly, its voice barely above a whisper. "How do you dance like that?" The butterfly paused mid-air and landed on a nearby flower. Its wings fluttered gently before it spoke in a soft voice. "Ah, little bird. It's not about the colors I wear, but the rhythm I follow. The painter may have touched me with color, but it is how I move through life that creates the magic. You see, every moment, every breath, is an opportunity to paint with your own spirit. You don't need the perfect colors to make a masterpiece. Just live, and the colors will come." The bird's heart filled with understanding. It had spent so long seeking something outside of itself, but perhaps the most important part of its journey was the act of simply being present, being alive. With a grateful nod to the butterfly, the bird continued its journey, now realizing that it didn't need to wait for the perfect moment or the perfect color. The colors would come, and it was in the living, in the dancing, in the unfolding of its own story, that the magic would unfold. The days grew longer as the bird ventured deeper into the jungle, its thoughts filled with the wisdom it had gathered. The stories of the jaguar, the frog, the chameleon, and the butterfly danced through its mind like songs of the rainforest. The bird had learned patience, acceptance, and the importance of being present. But it still had one question lingering in its heart. What did the painter truly want to teach? One afternoon, the bird came across a clearing where the sunlight pierced through the thick canopy, illuminating a small pond. It was serene, the water smooth like glass, reflecting the sky and the trees in perfect harmony. The bird landed beside the pond, gazing at the reflection of the world, feeling an urge to rest. As the bird stared into the still water, it saw a curious thing, its own reflection, pale feathers and all. For the first time, the bird truly looked at itself. It had spent so much time searching for someone or something else to define its beauty, but now, in the quiet of the pond, it realized that it had never truly seen itself. The colors it sought weren't outside. It was all within. For the first time, the bird wasn't looking for the painter. It was looking at itself. A soft breeze stirred the surface of the water, and for a brief moment, the reflection seemed to ripple, as though the world was shifting. The bird blinked, unsure of what it had just witnessed. It felt a wave of realization wash over it. The painter wasn't just an external force. The painter was within everything, within the very heart of the rainforest. And the bird, like all the creatures it had met, was a part of that magic. The bird felt its wings flutter with excitement. It didn't need to keep searching. It had already found the answer. The painter wasn't a person. The painter was the life force that ran through everything. The bird could feel it now, in every beat of its wings, in every breath of the jungle. The next morning, with a renewed sense of clarity, the bird decided it was time to find the painter's cave, the final destination of its journey. The jungle felt different now, more alive, as though it too was aware of the bird's realization. The colors around it were more vibrant, the air sweeter, and the sounds of the forest carried a melody the bird had never noticed before. The bird flew through the jungle, feeling the path unfolding before it, as though the very trees were guiding it forward. After a long flight, it came upon a hidden cave, nestled deep within the heart of the jungle. The entrance was covered in thick vines, and the air around it seemed to hum with an ancient energy. The bird hesitated for a moment, unsure of what it would find inside. It stepped cautiously into the cave, its wings brushing against the cool walls as it moved deeper. The inside of the cave was bathed in soft, golden light, casting shadows that danced on the stone. At the far end of the cave, the bird saw something it hadn't expected. An old, weathered brush lying on the ground, its bristles soft and frayed. Next to the brush, there was a small, smooth mirror, its surface reflecting the bird's pale feathers. The bird approached the brush and the mirror slowly, a feeling of awe filling its chest. It picked up the brush with a careful beak, feeling its power, but when it looked into the mirror, it saw only itself, a pale, uncolored bird, no different from when it had first hatched. Confusion filled the bird's heart. Where was the painter? Where was the magic that had been promised? As it stared into the mirror, it realized something. There was no painter to find. The brush, the mirror, everything in the cave was a reflection of itself. The painter was not an external force. The painter had always been inside, guiding it through its journey, teaching it lessons about patience, acceptance, and the magic of living fully. The brush was a tool, yes, but the art, the masterpiece, was already within the bird. The bird held the brush in its beak for a long moment, the weight of the realization settling deeply in its heart. It wasn't the invisible painter who would color its feathers. It was the bird itself. The magic had never been outside of it. It had always been within, waiting for the bird to see and embrace it. With a gentle flick of its wings, the bird began to dip the brush into the soft, rich hues it had carried within all along, colors of hope, of dreams, of the jungle itself. As it touched the brush to its feathers, something incredible happened. The colors didn't simply appear. They swirled, they danced, they blended. There was no right or wrong shade, no rules to follow. The bird was free to create whatever it felt, with no boundaries. The bird started at its wings, where the first strokes of deep, vivid blue washed across the tips, like the sky at dawn. Then, the soft green of the jungle filled the edges of its feathers, followed by the golden warmth of the sun. Each stroke felt more like an awakening than an act of creation. The bird didn't need to understand every color or every detail. It just needed to trust itself, to let the colors flow naturally, guided by the rhythm of its own heart. As it painted, the bird realized something even more profound. The colors it created were not just on the surface. They were reflections of its journey, of the lessons it had learned. Each color held a memory, a feeling, a part of the bird's soul. And as it worked, it became clear. The painting was not a finished product. It was the process itself, the living and growing, the embracing of change. The bird paused for a moment, stepping back to admire its work. Its feathers were now a beautiful mosaic, a patchwork of colors that told the story of its journey, of the many lessons it had learned along the way. The bird stepped back and marveled at its reflection in the mirror. The once pale feathers had transformed into a vibrant display of colors, swirling in patterns that told the story of its growth. Every stroke of the brush had been an expression of its journey, of the lessons learned from the jaguar's wisdom, the frog's patience, the chameleon's change, the butterfly's dance, and the tortoise's quiet strength. Each color was more than just a physical hue. It was a reflection of its inner transformation. But as the bird admired its newfound beauty, a soft voice echoed in the cave. "Do you see now?" the voice asked, though there was no one there. The bird turned, its heart racing, but there was no figure, no painter to be found. The cave remained still, bathed in the warm light. The voice, it seemed, had come from the very heart of the jungle itself. The bird's eyes widened as it understood. The painter hadn't been an individual or a being to find. The painter was the journey itself. The magic was in the experience of living, of discovering the world and oneself through the lens of imagination and patience. The brush, once held with uncertainty, now felt like a part of the bird. It wasn't just a tool. It was a companion in the bird's journey. And the bird realized that it would continue to paint its own story, one color at a time, for as long as it lived. The bird felt a sense of peace settle in its chest. The search for the painter had been important, but the greatest discovery had been within itself. The true artist was not an external force. It had always been the bird itself, creating beauty through every step it took, through every moment of growth and change. With a soft flutter of its wings, the bird turned away from the cave, its heart light and its feathers shimmering in the newly found light. It was ready to return to the jungle, to share its story with the world. As the bird took flight once again, the world around it seemed to greet it with new eyes. The jungle, which had once seemed like a place full of vibrant, yet distant beauty, now felt like home. Every tree, every leaf, every ripple in the river, and every flutter of a butterfly's wings held a new meaning. The bird's colors, its feathers, seemed to blend seamlessly with the world, as if it had always belonged to this magical place. The bird soared through the sky, its wings spreading wide, now fully alive with color. It passed by the jaguar, who watched with admiring eyes, its star-spotted fur shimmering under the sun. The bird gave a small, knowing nod to the great feline, as if sharing a secret that only they understood. The jaguar's expression softened, a knowing smile flickering across its face. Next, the bird flew by the frog, who had been perched on a rock by the river, its emerald skin gleaming with the colors of the jungle. The frog croaked a greeting, and the bird dipped its wings in acknowledgement. It could see now that the frog, too, had once struggled to find its true colors but had found them by embracing its unique way of seeing the world. As the bird continued its journey, it found the chameleon, shifting effortlessly between shades of green and brown, blending into its surroundings. The bird paused for a moment, watching the chameleon, whose eyes sparkled with understanding. It had been right all along. The true colors were not found in one perfect moment, but in the ever-changing flow of life. The butterfly was next, fluttering through the air in its graceful dance. It was still the same delicate creature, but now the bird could see something deeper in its movements. Each beat of its wings was an act of creation, a reminder that beauty is found in the living, the moving, the changing. The bird flew higher, feeling the wind beneath its wings, stronger than ever. It had found its colors, not because of a magical brush, but because of the journey it had taken. The search had led it to discover that the true masterpiece was not the final result, but the process itself, the painting that unfolded with every step. As the bird flew further, it began to understand that its journey wasn't just about the destination. It wasn't about finding the painter or receiving a perfect coat of vibrant colors. It was about embracing every part of itself, the pale feathers that had once seemed like a mistake, the lessons from each creature it had met, and the experiences that had shaped its very being. The bird found itself at the edge of a towering cliff that overlooked the vast expanse of the rainforest. The landscape stretched for miles, the jungle unfurling in every direction like a living, breathing canvas. The bird perched on the edge, feeling the rush of wind beneath its wings. For a moment, it simply allowed itself to be still, taking in the beauty of the world that stretched before it. And then, with a sense of peace settling deep in its chest, the bird understood the final lesson. It wasn't just about what the painter had given. It was about what the bird had learned to create on its own. The invisible painter had always been there, not as a figure to find, but as the force that helped the bird realize its own potential, its own power to create. The bird closed its eyes for a moment, allowing the wind to fill its senses. The jungle, the sky, the earth below. All of it was part of the masterpiece. And now, the bird was not just a part of that painting. It was the artist. With a final glance at the horizon, the bird began to fly once again, not with a destination in mind, but with a heart open to whatever came next. Every moment was now an opportunity to create, to paint with its wings, to write the story of its life in vibrant strokes of color. The bird wasn't searching anymore. It had become the painter, the artist, and the masterpiece all at once. The bird continued to soar, now feeling lighter than ever before, as if every beat of its wings brought it closer to its truest self. With each passing day, the world beneath it seemed to shift and change, yet it felt more connected to it than ever. The colors on its feathers now sparkled in the sunlight, but they no longer felt like something it had to seek or obtain. The colors were an expression of who it was, a journey made visible. One evening, as the bird rested on a tree branch at sunset, the sky painted in brilliant oranges and pinks, it looked around at the creatures that filled the jungle. The jaguar resting under the shade of a tree, the frog silently watching the river, the chameleon blending into the landscape, and the butterfly dancing between flowers. They were all part of the masterpiece, each of them with their own colors, their own stories. The bird's heart swelled with gratitude. It had once believed it was incomplete, that it needed to find something outside of itself to fill the emptiness. But now it understood, nothing was missing. The colors it had searched for had always been within. The lessons, the encounters, the moments of growth. These were the true colors that painted its wings. The bird wasn't the only one painting its story. Each creature, each part of the rainforest, was a brushstroke in the grand masterpiece of life. The painter had always been a part of this world, not a single entity, but the energy that connected everything. It was at that moment that the bird knew it was ready to share its newfound understanding. It didn't need to find the painter anymore because it was no longer searching. The artist had already been with it all along. And now, the bird would live as both the creator and the creation, embracing every color, every experience, and every moment of the journey. As the days passed, The bird flew higher and farther, its wings now carrying it with ease. Every journey it took, every part of the jungle it explored, felt like a new brushstroke in its ongoing painting. The bird no longer rushed to find something or someone to complete it. It was fully aware that its colors would change and evolve with every new experience, every new connection. One morning, as it flew over a dense canopy, the bird spotted a young bird struggling to take flight for the first time. The small creature flapped its wings frantically, its feathers still soft and pale, much like the bird had once been. It hovered uneasily, clearly unsure of itself. The older bird swooped down, landing gracefully beside the young one. "It's okay," the bird said softly. "I know how you feel. I was once like you." The young bird blinked up at the older one, unsure of how to respond. "At first, I thought I had to be something I wasn't," the older bird continued. "I thought I needed colors, something to make me beautiful. But I learned that it's not the colors that matter. It's the journey, the moments you live, the way you move through the world, that create the beauty in you." The young bird looked down at its pale feathers, feeling unsure. "But how do I know when I'll be ready?" The older bird smiled gently. "You'll know when the time is right. The magic is in the process, in trusting yourself. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be true to who you are. And one day, you'll look at yourself and realize you've painted yourself into something beautiful." The young bird nodded, its wings a little steadier, the uncertainty beginning to fade. The older bird took off, leaving the young one to take its own flight. The bird flew away with a heart full of gratitude. It was no longer on a search for the painter, nor was it seeking a destination. The true painting had been the life it was living, the journey, the lessons, the beauty in every moment. It was free to create, to be, and to live its own masterpiece. As the seasons changed, the bird's wings grew stronger, and its feathers brighter with each passing day. It had become a symbol of the journey, of transformation, and of embracing one's true self. Everywhere it went, it shared the wisdom it had learned, not through words, but through the vibrant colors that covered its body. Colors that spoke of hope, growth, and the beauty of living authentically. One day, the bird found itself perched on the highest branch of a great tree overlooking the jungle. Below, the world spread out like an ever-evolving canvas, rich with life, teeming with creatures, and humming with the pulse of nature. The colors of the jungle, once vibrant and alive with mystery, now seemed to merge with the bird itself. There was no longer a separation between the world and the bird. It was all one, a masterpiece in constant creation. The bird's heart swelled with peace as it looked around, its wings slightly spread. For the first time it fully understood. The painter had never been an external being. It had never been about finding someone to fill a gap. The painter had always been within everything. It was in the sky that stretched endlessly above, in the roots of the trees that grounded the earth, in the river that flowed with quiet persistence. The painter was not just an artist, it was life itself. And the bird, now fully aware of this truth, had become both the artist and the creation. Its life was its own masterpiece, continuously painted with every choice, every experience, and every moment of growth. It stayed there on that branch, basking in the warmth of the sun as it sank low in the sky. There was nothing left to search for. The bird was whole, its journey complete. It had found its color, its purpose, and its place in the world. The painter wasn't someone it needed to find. It had always been the one holding the brush. With a contented sigh, the bird flew into the golden evening sky, knowing that its masterpiece would continue to evolve, as would every moment it encountered. The painting was never finished. It was a living work, unfolding with every beat of its wings. As the bird soared through the skies, it no longer sought approval or validation from the world below. It had embraced its own beauty, its own journey. The once uncertain creature had become a radiant symbol of self-discovery, embracing each step of its path with grace and acceptance. It was no longer defined by the colors it once lacked, but by the vibrant story it had written with its wings. The world below seemed different now. The jungle, the river, the towering trees, and even the distant mountains, they were all alive with color and meaning. The bird could see how everything was connected, how each creature, each leaf, and each drop of water was part of the grand masterpiece of life. There was no separation between the bird and the world. It was all part of the same painting, the same rhythm. As the bird continued to fly, it thought back to all the creatures it had met along the way. The jaguar with its starry fur, the frog with its shimmering skin, the chameleon who taught it about change, the butterfly who danced through the air, and the wise tortoise who spoke of the flow of life. Each of them had shared a lesson, a piece of wisdom that had helped the bird see the world with new eyes. They were all part of the same painting, each adding their own colors to the canvas. The bird now understood that life was not about reaching a destination or finding a perfect moment. It was about the journey, the choices made, and the way each experience shaped the masterpiece of who it was becoming. It no longer searched for answers or a painter. It had become both the artist and the creation, free to live in the fullness of its own colors. And as it flew, the bird's wings glistened in the setting sun, painting the sky with a trail of light. It was a masterpiece in motion, forever unfolding, forever changing. The painter's work was never done, and neither was the bird's journey. And so, the bird continued to fly through the skies, its wings glowing with the colors of its journey. It had discovered that the painter wasn't someone to find, but something to become. The world below, the creatures it met, and the lessons learned all became part of its beautiful, living masterpiece. With each new dawn, it painted itself anew, embracing the ever-changing rhythm of life. The bird no longer searched, for it had already found what it needed within itself. And as the sun set on another day, the bird soared gracefully, a masterpiece in motion, forever unfolding.